Though hundreds of thousands of individuals are declared missing in the US every year, it is only a fraction of this number that remain missing long term. In fact, over 80% of missing adults and 90% of missing children are recovered within 48 hours of their disappearance. While it might look bleak to have a loved one missing for years or even decades, there is hope, as these cases prove. Join us for today's episode as we examine 3 cases of children who disappeared and reappeared as adults. Julian Hernandez. Julian Hernandez was just 5 years old when he disappeared from Birmingham, Alabama, where he lived with his mother in August 2002. One Wednesday morning, Julian was taken to preschool by his father, Bobby Hernandez, as part of a previous arrangement with his mother. But rather than taking the little boy to the school, he packed his son's favorite baby blanket and orca plush toy, drained his bank accounts, and climbed into his car with Julian in tow. At the time, police described the 5-year-old as being 3 feet tall and 43 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Noticeably, he had a dimpled left cheek. His favorite activities included fishing, watching movies, and eating at Chuck E. Cheese, the pizzeria. Authorities noted that it was likely that Hernandez had abducted Julian due to an ongoing custody dispute between him and the little boy's mother. The pair weren't married, and Hernandez had reportedly threatened to take Julian from her if they ever broke up. For 13 years, nobody knew what had become of Julian. Investigators struggled to track down Hernandez or his son, and nobody had even an inkling of where they might be living. Julian's mother had her hopes raised and dashed time and time again when investigators thought they might have a strong lead, but nothing ever panned out. Then, in October of 2015, the FBI got a call. A tipster believed that a teenager living in Cleveland, Ohio, 700 miles away from Birmingham, was Julian Hernandez. The FBI subsequently contacted the local authorities, the Vestavia Hills Police, who investigated the tip. To their surprise, the caller had been spot on. Julian, now 18, had been living under a different name with his father, unaware that he was a missing child, with a mother who longed for him to come home. Notably, however, his suspicions had begun to arise when he was applying for university and had trouble doing so because his social security number didn't match his name. When he informed a school counselor about his issue, they discovered that he was listed as a missing person in the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children database. Neighbors knew Julian as JJ, while his father had obtained identification paperwork under the name Jonathan Mangina for himself. With Julian in safe hands, Hernandez, now 53, was taken into custody. He was charged in Ohio with tampering records. This was in response to a 2012 incident where he provided false information for an Ohio state ID card. At the time of all this, he was not arrested for child abduction, although Vestavia Hills Police stated that they planned to obtain warrants for interference with child custody. He would be extradited to Alabama to face further charges after his legal issues in Ohio were resolved. His mother was said to be ecstatic at the news that her son had finally been found. Bobby Hernandez was ultimately tried for a litany of charges in Ohio, including kidnapping, interference with custody, and forgery, alongside with the tampering with records charge. Before he was handed down his sentence, however, his 19-year-old son asked the courts for leniency. Julian stated, "Even if other people can't, I forgive him for what he's done. I love him, and I want him to be part of my life." He added that his father pushed him to do well in school and was the reason that he planned to attend university. Quote, "The time I've spent with him is the only time I've ever truly felt at home and at peace." He noted that while growing up without a mother was difficult, quote, "Taking him away from me is doing the same thing all over again." Hernandez reportedly broke down at this point, telling the court Julian was the most important person in his life. The prosecution, however, observed that he had led his son to believe that he had been abandoned by an unloving mother, when in fact the opposite was true. They pushed for a lengthy sentence, noting that Hernandez had deprived his son of a relationship with his mother. In a statement read by lawyers, Julian's mother reflected on her son's disappearance. Quote, "During my darkest moments, I considered suicide. I wanted to die." She added that she never stopped searching for him. A separate statement was also read by lawyers, this one written by Julian's maternal grandmother, who described Hernandez as an angry, controlling, and vengeful person who kidnapped his son because he wanted to get even with Julian's mother for leaving him. Hernandez was given 4 years in prison, plus 5 years of supervised release. Dollie Ann Henson. Dollie Ann Henson was just 5 when she vanished from a neighbor's home in Houston, Texas in 1954. She stated that while playing, the woman whose home it was asked if she wanted to go on a train ride, to which Dollie happily agreed. Dollie was first taken to Louisiana and then California. She grew up in the city of Oakland. When she inquired about her parents, she was told by her kidnapper that her family didn't want her, and they never had. She was told, as she got older, that she would never be able to find her real parents. Dollie's name and birth certificate were changed, and because she never knew much about her old life and family, she was unable to trace them when she reached adulthood. Despite what she was told about her family not wanting her, Dollie noted that she never stopped thinking about them. She stated that her kidnapper had kept all of her identification information locked in the trunk of a car, and that a fire destroyed both the vehicle and the documents contained inside. She added that the kidnapper died in 1977. Her name has never been revealed, and she was never charged with any crime. Further information about her is unavailable. Dollie noted that her kidnapper treated her well, and she lived a fairly normal life in spite of all of it. In 2007, one of her family members returned to Texas, only to find that the neighborhood where Dollie recalled once living had been demolished to make money for a freeway. There were several important details that she recalled around this time. Her name was Darlene McDaniels. She'd been near Millam Street when she was taken. Her mother's name was Helen, and she had 3 siblings, one of whom was a brother named either Darnell or Daniel. In 2009, Dollie spoke with several news outlets in an attempt to try and find her family. After speaking with Eyewitness News, which aired a segment about her case, a woman named Donilla McDaniel was contacted by her nephew-in-law, who'd caught the program. He believed Dollie was the spitting image of Donilla, who subsequently agreed to reach out to Dollie. In the following months, Dollie got to know her aunt, sister, cousins, and her little brother, none of whom she had seen since she was taken by her neighbor. Her brother, Larry Young, told the media, "This moment right now is overwhelming. I can't sleep. I'm spending every second I can while she's here and enjoying it. I know my mother is smiling right now." Sadly, Dollie's mother passed away in 2002, but her siblings were quick to note the uncanny resemblance between the two, with Larry noting, "She looks exactly like my mother and has my mother's way too. Trust me." On Christmas Eve of 2009, the siblings' older brother, Robert, flew in from Dallas to finally meet his long-lost sister. Reflecting on the reunion, Dollie said, "What does the Bible say? I once was lost, but now I'm found. Blind, but now I see. For the situation, this is the best Christmas of my life, because now I'm complete." More family members flew in over the next few days. Reportedly, the siblings tried to rent a hall so they would have room to fit everyone, but they were all booked up for the holidays or charging exorbitant prices. Dollie told ABC that she didn't mind, as long as she was with family. Susan Gervaise. 4-year-old Susan Priest was last seen in 1969. At the time, she had been living with her mother and 6 siblings on a traveller site in the town of Pontefract in West Yorkshire, England. The family was not well off and endured some difficulties, so when another family, consisting of 2 parents and 2 children, offered to take Susan on a trip to Disney World, Florida, her mother was overjoyed. Susan later recalled, "My mum was on her own, and we were all in and out of foster care. I was befriended by a couple on the site who were from Scotland. The woman had MS, and they had 2 sons. I think they wanted a girl. A passport was not required, which was handy since Susan didn't have one. All the family needed was a birth certificate and parental permission, and her name was added to the family's passport. Despite being promised a trip to Disney World, Susan was subsequently taken to Canada, Australia, and then New Zealand. She spent most of her life in Australia and recalled, "I was told I was adopted, but I never really thought much about it. I was happy." However, things took a turn when Susan turned 16 and attempted to get a passport to return to Australia from New Zealand. She told the media, "I applied, but I needed a signature from my mother or father. That's when Dad told me they didn't adopt me. I had been stolen." She subsequently had to stay in New Zealand until she was 18 and could apply for an adult passport. Upon her return to Australia, she met her husband, Hamilton. They went on to have 3 children and now have 4 granddaughters. She observed that she was spoiled rotten by her adoptive family and lived a cherished life. Her mother died when she was just 10, while her father died 11 years later. Susan added, "The enormity of what happened to me didn't hit me. I just carried on with my life. It was only when somebody who was adopted asked me what my family back in the UK would be feeling, and that was a light bulb moment for me." Despite the passage of time, it didn't take long for Susan to hunt down her family. Her husband asked for help on a community Facebook page, which led to him finding her family just 30 minutes later. Sadly, by this point, her mother was already deceased. She later discovered via her siblings that her mother had returned to the traveller's site time and time again, even after moving away, in the hopes of finding her and the family who had stolen her. Several appeals were also made through the UK charity Missing Persons over the years. Susan's siblings were still alive and were keen to meet her. They all still resided in or around Pontefract. As part of her 57th birthday, she flew to the UK to meet them. Her niece, Emma McFadden, told reporters, "We never thought this would happen. It's been amazing, especially for my mum. She has Parkinson's and dementia, so it's amazing she's been reunited with her sister before she deteriorates. She's now complete." It's unclear why the police were never involved in the case, but Susan believes it's because her mother gave written permission to the family, and because children were in and out of foster care, they likely fell through the cracks. She added that she was raised with her adoptive father's surname, and then got married in her early adulthood, making it difficult for anyone to trace her. And there you have the facts. Please leave a comment down below with your own thoughts and reactions, and remember to like this video and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.